Hey, this is a brand new episode that's done so different than anything else I've done. I'm sitting here at my desk and I just got done with a consultation with a guy who is working on getting rid of his fillers. Maybe you're getting rid of your fillers. You don't want to say and like and all those different things. So as we were talking, I said, what if we just turn this into a YouTube and a podcast episode and help people get rid of their fillers and help you at the same time? And he was game. So we started the recording and we jumped into it. And what I taught him and helped him with, you now can benefit from as well. Check this out.
Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
Adam, hey, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you're joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is I'm kind of honored right now.
Then the reason why Adam says that is because we jumped on a short consultation for him to do some work with me. His wife ordered some packages to have him work on some communication with me. And in the consultation, we just decided that we're going to work on something in front of everybody and then post it on YouTube and post it on my podcast. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, super fun. And I'm not nervous at all.
Well, here's what we're going to do is we're going to work on killing your fillers. And the number one filler that you use that most people are aware of is ums. And so we want to work on killing that in you. And so just giving you some coaching, but then this is going to be applicable to all those people who are watching and listening that do fillers. So let's hear you do some fillers, Adam. And yes. I know you're very conscientious now not to do the fillers,
right?
But I want you to just try to talk natural without some of the stuff we've already talked about. Totally. And try to talk about how you would before and just tell us a little bit about yourself. So good chance just to promote yourself as well and your show.
Yeah. Any chance I can get to promote myself. That's what I'm here for, you know? My name's Adam. I am a comedian and podcaster. I work professionally for a podcast network as a producer there, where I edit a lot of podcasts and edit a lot of ums out of sentences, as well as a lot of filler words. In fact, I use a program that targets filler words and transcripts, and I just cut those right out. But I'm interested in applying these techniques to myself because I run my own podcast and social media account called The Daily Misinformer. That is thedailymisinformer.com, where we tell political jokes and, talk about, I guess what you would say is stories that are interesting and a little bit bizarre that maybe you haven't heard about. And I'm interested mostly in speaking more clearly and more deliberately for the podcast, because as an editor, I have to be very critical with my own speech, and I'm very bad at talking. So I'm very excited to learn to get rid of some filler words today.
Here's what I love, Adam, is before we decided that we were going to record this, we actually had already had some conversation. And so you already heard some of the coaching. And so I can hear you actually applying the coaching, and you didn't say as nearly as much as you were before. And you didn't say like, you did say twice. So you used that, and you did some other things that we'll talk about in a moment. But I want you, the listener, to go back and to listen again or watch again what Adam just did and see any kind of fillers. So this is what you're looking for in that time. And this is all with Adam's permission.
Yeah. And definitely go back and listen to the part where I said, follow the Daily Misinformer. Go back to that section specifically.
Okay. So 4 different types of fillers. And the first one is the obvious one that people use, ah. Did you know it changes how you say in different languages?
Really?
Languages actually will say it differently. So I grew up in Mexico, and a lot of them say versus and then a lot of people in Eastern Europe have a slightly different sounding, which is interesting to me that doesn't translate every language.
That's interesting. Wow.
Pure side note. So the first one is filler. So first one is the second one is elongation. So when you go back and listen to some of the things that Adam is talking about, sometimes he's dragging the word on, usually on the vowel, sometimes on an S or an M. Usually it's a way that we're filling in the gap between thoughts or words that we're saying. So that's one. Another is when you stammer. And this time when Adam was talking, he stammered a couple times on the I'm. And it's a way to, once again, fill in that gap in between different thoughts or words or segments. And then the last one that people use is these extra words or garbage words, such as, a couple times you did that, Adam. And if you think about the words, the two words, they make absolutely no sense in communication. Because if you're talking, and now you're going through this topic and, well, you don't know. That's why I'm telling you. That's why I'm teaching you. So often when we're answering something, we say, people don't know. And it's a complete garbage or extra word that doesn't need to be there. Or like, however, now. One time I was speaking and I had a teenager come up to me afterwards. I was a youth conference speaker in my 20s. And this teenager comes up and says, did you know you said the word anyways 28 times? Yes. So glad you're paying attention.
That was totally purposeful. Yeah.
I'm glad you wrote that down. She had a hash marks and everything. Those are ways that we fill in the gap. And what happens is after a little while, people start tuning into the filler versus the content you want to get across. One of the things I don't do any edits on my show and my podcast or YouTube is so that people can see the flubs that in a professional speaker makes like that one right there. It's okay. And just to be aware that it's not the end of the world. However, if you make so many, it becomes very annoying and very distracting, like that teenager who noticed 28 times. She didn't pay attention to what I was saying, just that I said one thing multiple times. So we want to eliminate some of these different fillers that you end up using. And the way that we do it is not to remove them, but to replace them. So even at the very beginning of the call, when you jumped on it with me, you said, I want to stop doing something. So let me ask you a question. Do you like donuts?
I love donuts.
And what kind of donuts do you like?
I like the maple kind, the maple bars, but I will almost always pick the chocolate bar over any other donut.
Do you like the filling inside or just like the pure donut?
Gotta love the pure donut. Yeah, just the bread. It's one of the best. Like it's the way it squeezes in your mouth and melts. It's the best.
See, I can't do the ones with the fillers inside because it's just like, oh, hey, I don't like fillers. I don't like this. That was bad.
No fillers. No fillers. That's the name of the episode.
But I love the cake ones that are just a little bit thicker, so they don't melt, but it's just so good. Now, what are we thinking about while we're talking about donuts?
We are thinking about donuts.
And what do we want?
I would like a donut, please.
It's amazing how when you start talking about something and start even thinking, I need to stop eating so many donuts. The moment you start doing that, you start wanting donuts. This is why when people go, I got to stop drinking, man, I got to stop drinking. I got to stop drinking. It's New Year's. I should stop drinking. It's January. I should stop drinking. And what do you think about?
Drinking.
I want a Manhattan right now. That just sounds so good. Or smoking or whatever it is. The more we think about it, the more we want to do it. And so when people say, I got to stop using fillers, even earlier, as you were talking, you said a filler and then you caught yourself saying it. And you're like, and you're thinking about it. And it was a moment of difficulty trying to recover and not say another filler. And you recovered by saying, stop thinking about the filler. And then you said another filler. And so instead of stopping fillers, I want to give you something to think about. I want you to replace fillers with pauses. So as you're talking, I want you to intentionally find breaks in your sentences, in your thought process, in your communication, and use pauses. If you were to write out how someone speaks, not so that someone could read it, but if you were to write it out just as that person speaks, it would be filled up with some longer points of time where people are saying things uninterrupted, like that. And then there'd be other moments where people just say, like that. And then there's a pause between their next sentence, fragment, thought that's coming out. So our vocal speech is so different than written speech. And we need to pause more often in our expression and allow there to be little gaps in between. And when we do so, see how long I've been talking now without any fillers? It takes out the fillers. The difficulty on this is it's unnatural and people often don't want to go through the process. So let me illustrate that and have you do something. So tell us a little bit about some of the team members on the group that you do.
Sure. I work with...
My bad. I forgot to tell you this little caveat. I want you to go super slow and pause a lot.
Okay. I work with a group of fantastic comedians who have a background in sketch and stand-up and improv. Most of us went to a improv school or sketch writing school named it's been a while, unfortunately. It was almost like our graduate school, but the name was Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in Los Angeles. And I worked with them a lot doing shows and podcasts. And when I decided to start the show, Daily Misinformer, I reached out to them because we had a similar sensibility. And one of my co-producers, Ezra Parter, brought on a fantastic team to make us even better.
Let me pause you right there. Did you know how few fillers you used?
It was very hard.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's breathing. I was trying to focus on my breath, and I think that oxygenated my brain a little bit so I wasn't just sputtering out sentences.
You slowed down, and that's going to feel unnatural. And then you added something in, and you were shifting this. Now, what a lot of people say is that feels unnatural, and I don't want to do that. And let me speak to both of those points right there. What you did right there, it didn't feel natural because you've been doing it the wrong way for a long time. So if you were to go to a kid and you were to say, throw this basketball at the hoop, and I coach basketball for little kids, so I've seen this happen again and again. And basically, they just take the ball any way they can and they throw it up there. There's no technique, right? They throw it, but that's what feels natural. But is it right? Not at all. For anybody who plays basketball, you should have a throwing arm, like a dominant arm, then you should have a guide arm, and there's a whole process, and then you do follow through. The follow through, holding your hand up in the air, kind of like this afterwards, feels so weird. Like, what am I doing? How does this help? But there's a whole rhyme, there's a whole reason behind it. So doing what's right doesn't feel natural at first. So you did what's right, and you took a lot of pauses, and I'll tell you about the power of pauses in a moment. But you took a lot of pauses, and that's actually right, but it doesn't feel natural. Now, I see all the musical equipment in the back, and we chatted about this earlier, so I know this is a relevant illustration. But for you, have you ever thought about when you went off to music school? Why did you go off to music school, and what kind of musician were you when you went off to music school?
Yeah, I was a self-taught musician, mostly playing guitar based off tab music, which is not used in music school. In fact, it's frowned upon greatly. But I was a guitar student going into music school, and I felt kind of at a disadvantage when I showed up.
Oh man, I love this. I love how intentional you are on slowing things down. I just wish that some of the early recordings that you and I had where you were every moment was there.
Yeah. I mean, I could make some up right now. I can do it right now if you want. It's very easy.
No, I like it. So you were self-taught and you go off to music school. You knew how to play, but you actually didn't know the right techniques. So then you get there, realize that your techniques are not the way that you should be playing, which means that you have to stop doing something and replace it with something else. So not just not stop playing, but you need to replace it with the right technique. So you had to probably slow down, very annoyingly so. I mean, my guess is you were probably pretty good playing with your tab music, and now you're having to slow way down and relearn. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And so you slow down, and then you learn it the right way, and then over the course of time, you can speed up. So what you just did there a moment ago, and you did so well, it was way slower than you would naturally speak. And you used a lot longer pauses than you would naturally use. But if you keep on practicing that, and there's a ways that we can practice, we can talk about it at the end. There's ways that you can practice, then what's going to happen is you're going to slowly get rid of those ums and fillers. You might have a couple now and then. It's not that big of a deal. Every now and then, you just don't want so many that it takes over and it takes all of the attention. So you need to learn how to take something that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel natural, but you're going to do it anyway until it becomes natural. Like Michael Jordan, he probably as a little tiny kid probably threw it like a granny shot, but now, of course, he's going to do it the right way and it's going to feel natural. And he can do it quite fast because he's done it many, 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 many times, just like you and music. So I want you to practice pauses, slow down. What's interesting is a lot of people think that makes them talk a lot slower. I'm going to go down to where you talked about your school. What's the name of your school that you went to?
Upright Citizens Brigade Theater.
Okay, when you went and told us about that, you were doing so great without any fillers. And then you came to this moment, and notice what you did if you go back and watch it. You started taking and vamping about it, like, it's been so long since I had a chance. Let's see, upright citizen. And what's happening right there? You're actually taking more time than if you had just come up and said, I went to upright citizens. So yes. We often feel like we're speeding up by adding more words in, but we're actually taking up more time. If we can learn how to pause, and if the pause is going to get long, just ask for a second. I went to, hold on one second, Upright Citizens Brigade. Now, when you ask for time, instead of wasting time, most people really appreciate it.
I did. I just appreciated that a lot, actually. when you did that, I was like, wow, okay, I actually will hold on. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's better than one of those telecom systems that tell you to hold, and you're like, no way.
Please hold. Yeah.
Well, the dynamic that's happening here is you're filling up before you have to. So you're not letting your car run out, but you're filling up at the quarter tank. So you're taking these pauses and you're filling up. Now, you talked about your breath and you felt like you were oxygenating your blood. I don't know if that's true or not, but I will tell you that pauses do more than just create that moment where you can gather your next thought. So what do pauses do? Here's what pauses do. When you pause, it gives you an opportunity to analyze what you're saying. So I'm in the middle of a conversation and I'm rambling. Stop. Okay. So pauses allow you to stop rambling. Pauses allow you to stop before you say something you shouldn't. I just think everybody in America with vaccines, whoa, I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Yeah. Especially on YouTube, you gotta make sure you're not saying anything about vaccines here.
Left or the right, middle, forward, backwards, whatever. Just stop. But so it allows you to make sure you're not saying things. So if you feel like you're running your mouth a whole bunch, start bringing in some pauses. It allows you to breathe. I was watching a famous TED Talker, just amazing. And in fact, I encourage people to watch this TED Talk all the time. Yet what this person does is they have a very shallow breathing. And you can hear their breath in the mic. And that comes, well, as a musician, you should be singing from your diaphragm. So it means that you should be breathing into your lower belly. And that way you're going to have more power and more peace. Yoga teaches you not to breathe like that, but yoga teaches you to breathe with a nice belly. But if you are rushing yourself, then all you got to do is keep speaking, right? Because you keep on running to the end of your sentence. And so you keep on, it's like a car that keeps filling up at the last eighth of a tank and just puts in another eighth of a tank and another eighth of a tank. But instead, if you'll just take a moment and fill up your belly, then you'll feel more peace and you'll have more power. And pauses allow you to do that. Pauses allow you to analyze the room. Pauses allow you to smile. I was once asked by an executive in Irvine, I was doing this whole conference workshop for them. I said, Mike, what is the number one piece of advice that you tell people? And I said, pause. I think if actually people paused, not only would you be out of a job, but I'd be out of a job too.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is the number one thing that people need to be doing when it comes to public speaking. So for your Adam, and we'll get a chance to work on this in some follow-up sessions, I want you to do something daily in the mirror. You ready for this?
Sure.
Eat a donut.
Oh boy. You got it. You got it. Just for you.
Your wife's like, what are you doing? I was like, this is what you told me to get?
I don't know, babe. This is for speech or something, I guess. I don't know.
So here's what I want you to do. And it's the equivalent to actually walking 30 minutes a day. So if you were to talk to a doctor and just want to get healthy, something you can do every day is walk 30 minutes at a brisk pace. Healthy for every American, no matter really where you are. I should say 95%. I'm going to say, hedge my bets. Here's what you should do. 2 to 10 minutes of work in the mirror. I used to say more, but I realized that people don't have more than 2 to 10 minutes to invest. So 2 to 10 minutes, if you stand in front of the mirror for 2 to 10 minutes a day. Why in the mirror? Because you get to see everything else and there's a lot of advantages I won't go into there. But if you take a book, so let me just grab one of my books, a little shameless plug right here for Connect Through Emotional Intelligence. And if you just read a book in front of the mirror and you add in pauses. Now, obviously you should pause at commas and periods and paragraph breaks, but just find places to pause and turn this into a natural way of speaking. Another important factor in our motivation is relationships. One thing you can do is actually say a couple different times the same sentence, but pause differently. Analyze how it changes the sentence. Analyze how easy it is and how some ways it doesn't change the sentence. Another important factor in our motivation is relationships. And if you think about an audible book, they're actually adding in more pauses often than there actually are in the book because there's some long sentences and the narrator needs that breath. So another important factor in our motivation is relationships. I read the whole thing, pause. Now, take it to the next step. Start building your own thought processes on that sentence and then speak the sentence and add on to it, ad lib it, riff on it, and use pauses. So that way you're not just pausing with the reading, but you're pausing with your thought process. Another important factor. Now, there are many important factors, and I'm going to give you another one. So you see what I did there? I took that first 3 words, and then I just ad-libbed on it. It doesn't really matter what I'm saying at that point in time, but I'm talking and I'm practicing the pauses and I'm replacing it. What this does is it slows you down. It teaches you how to pause. Over the course of time, as you get more comfortable with pausing in the middle of sentences and other things, then you will be able to speed up. So now if I'm talking to you, I can be talking and along the way I can pause, but I can keep on talking for quite a while before I need to pause again, or I can use pauses a whole bunch because of the practice I put into it. Let me pause right here. Any thoughts from you, Adam? And then I'm going to do an amazing whiteboard drawing. So for all the people who are listening to podcasts, you're going to want to go and check out the YouTube for this portion right here, or just imagine it as you're driving with crystal clarity in your mind.
Yeah. I do want to reiterate or go off of what you were saying regarding in the audiobook sentence. There's probably a lot more pauses when listening to an audiobook. And as an editor, for those of you that are podcasters or are interested in podcasting or already have an established podcast watching or listening to this, as an editor, my job is to worry about taking out those pauses to make it more interesting, to fill in those gaps. So if you are more confident while speaking and not having those ers or likes or uhs and having those pauses, it is a better editing process to just trim the gap, and it's a more interesting listen. So if you're worried about it being uninteresting and boring and slow, if you have an editor, don't worry about it. It's far more uninteresting to have a bunch of likes that are distracting in your sentences.
Great point. And that's true for audio because you're actually only watching the audio.
Yeah.
The thing is, audio and visual is different. So if you're in person with somebody and you're listening to the person like me, and as I'm talking, I say some pauses and I'm using these gaps. This is far better than me talking and, filling in the gaps like this. Let me depict it this way right here. When we're talking, this is going to be some amazing artwork here.
I'm excited.
This is the way we talk. We talk with a variety of longer sentences, fragments, sometimes just a word, sometimes a couple words. Sometimes we really can go on for a while, and then we just say a couple words. Now, in between these sentences, fragments, long thoughts, words, are gaps. There's vacuums, and nature abhors a vacuum. So what we do with those vacuums is we naturally desire to fill them in with ums, likes, elongation, stammering, and we fill these in. Now, notice the moment I do this, what are you drawn to when you see this graph? Now, if you're listening, you'll see a whole bunch of segmented lines, kind of like dashes with some spaces, and you'll see these little red circles. So what are you going to be drawn to on the graph?
The red circles.
Right.
Because they stand out.
Right. It's really like the red buttons on America's Got Talent. Everybody's drawn to the moment that Simon or Heidi or whoever hits that button, and all you hear is the bah, and you're thrown off on it. And hopefully right there, I threw some people off, like, whoa, wait a minute. And you're drawn to that, which means what? You actually miss out on the next thing that the person is going to say. However, instead of being like a buzzer, if you leave the gaps, then you're doing what Terry Crews does on America's Got Talent. And when you pause, the person who's listening is leaning in to wonder what you say next. And the winner is, now his pause is way too long. Don't use that long of a pause. But if you pause, then people are drawn into the next thing. And that, Adam, is how you get rid of pauses.
Thank you. I'm cured. Thank you so much.
Hey, so practice, and I know that this has been a fun time, and I'm looking forward to the actual one. Let's go ahead and wrap up here real quick, and then you and I can schedule our next consultation.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this. And honestly, I'm already feel like I've changed a lot.
Right on. No, I agree. I love that you were thinking that way.
I'm still struggling, guys. Listen, it's going to take some work, but thank you, Mike, so much.
And it does. It takes work. None of this happens right away. You got to practice off stage to perform on stage. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for taking the time to check this out. Follow Adam, check him out. If you want to really read about some of this, my book comes out in February on speaking with confidence, and this skill is included. Until next time, this is Mike Acker.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.